Imagine you are sitting in a high-stakes boardroom meeting.
Oh, stressful.
Right. A critical multi-million-dollar deal is on the table, and the CEO of the partnering company just looked directly at you and asked a highly specific question.
Okay, the pressure is on.
Exactly. But right as they spoke, like an ambulance drove by outside, or maybe the conference room phone just glitched out.
Oh, worst nightmare.
You completely miss the last half of their sentence, and your brain just freezes.
Yeah, that panic sets in immediately.
Do you smile and nod, hoping you can somehow fake your way through an answer based on context clues? Or do you pull the ripcord, stop the momentum of the entire room, and ask them to repeat themselves?
It really is a fascinating precipice to stand on, honestly.
It is, because that split-second decision actually has very little to do with your vocabulary and absolutely everything to do with social power dynamics.
Yeah, most of us default to self-preservation in that moment.
Which means the smile and nod.
Right, which ironically often leads to a much bigger failure later on when we, answer the wrong question entirely.
Because we treat language as this sterile, mechanical transfer of data.
But it's deeply emotional.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. We are looking at this educational script structured around two guides, Sophia and Daniel.
Yeah, they outline what they call essential English phrases for social and professional fluency.
But here is the thing. You, the listener, you already know these words.
Right, it's not a beginner's guide.
Exactly. You know how to ask for help. You know how to say you are sorry. Our mission today is not to give you a basic vocabulary lesson.
Thank goodness.
Right. Instead, we are going to decode the underlying utility and the hidden psychology of these specific phrases.
We're looking at why deploying the precise syntactical structure at the exact right moment can completely alter how you are perceived in a room.
Whether you are mitigating a disaster, pushing back on a deadline, or trying to subtly take control of a chaotic conversation.
What's fascinating here is that Sophia and Daniel's script actually functions less as a language guide and much more as a behavioral toolkit.
A behavioral toolkit, I like that.
Yeah, because these expressions, they're mechanisms for managing cognitive load, both for yourself and for the person you are speaking to.
So they're almost like a shortcut to demonstrating high emotional intelligence.
Exactly. When we dissect them, we are really dissecting the invisible social contracts that govern human interaction.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we look at the baseline of human interaction, the most fundamental friction point is simply a failure of transmission.
Right, just not hearing someone.
Yeah, not being able to hear or process what someone just said. Sophia highlights the phrase, "Could you say that again, please?"
Which is incredibly common.
Now, on its face, that is as basic as it gets. But earlier, I mentioned the instinct to just smile and nod.
The self-preservation instinct.
Yeah. So let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't pulling the "could you say that again" parachute actually a massive risk in a professional environment?
Well, it feels like one.
Right. Doesn't admitting you missed the information make you look either inattentive or just, I don't know, straight up incompetent to your boss?
It feels like a risk, absolutely.
Mm.
But sociolinguistically, the smile and nod is actually the lower status move.
Wait, really? Lower status?
Yeah, because it's driven by ego protection and a fear of causing friction. What Daniel points out in the source material is that actively asking for repetition proves you are engaged.
Okay, I can see that.
But if we dig deeper into the psychology of it, interrupting a fast-paced environment to say, "Could you say that again, please?" is an assertion of value.
Because you're valuing the conversation enough to pause it.
Exactly. You are signaling the information you are providing is so critical to our shared success that I refuse to guess at it.
Oh, wow. That shifts the framing entirely.
It shifts it from a personal failure of hearing to a mutual commitment to precision. And it requires confidence to briefly halt the room like that.
That is a subtle but massive difference in framing. You aren't saying, "I am broken." You were saying, "This data is vital." And I suppose that same psychological mechanism applies to polite confusion. Sophia and Daniel highlight the phrase, "I'm not sure I understand. Could you explain it one more time?"
Notice the specific architecture of that phrase, though.
The "I'm not sure I understand" part.
Yeah, it intentionally takes on the burden of the confusion. You are not saying you are being confusing.
Or like, "Your explanation makes no sense."
Right, which immediately triggers a defensive response from the other person. By taking personal ownership of the friction, you preserve the ego of the counterpart.
You diffuse the tension before it even forms.
Exactly, allowing them to clarify without feeling attacked.
It is entirely about ego preservation. It's essentially saying, The problem is on my end of the connection. Could you help me fix it?
Which naturally makes people want to assist you.
Yeah. And speaking of everyday navigation, the script touches on those universal spatial and attention phrases.
Like in a supermarket.
Right. Things like, can you help me? Or the ubiquitous, excuse me. I don't want to dwell on the definitions of these because they are universally understood. But there is an interesting underlying function to a phrase like, excuse me, when you are, say, navigating a dense crowd.
Or just trying to get a stranger's attention.
Yeah.
It functions as a micro-apology.
A micro-apology.
Yeah, excuse me, is a preemptive acknowledgement that you are about to violate someone's personal space or their visual field or even just their internal monologue.
Because you're interrupting whatever they were thinking about.
Right. It operates as an invisible social buffer. Without it, physical proximity or sudden interruption reads as aggressive.
Totally.
With it, you establish a momentary, non-threatening social contract that allows you to pass through their sphere of influence safely.
It mitigates the threat response. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But let's elevate this, because once you step out of the crowd and into a corporate environment, the stakes shift.
Oh, completely.
The underlying needs don't change. Like, you still need assistance, you still need people to move out of your way, figuratively speaking.
But the packaging of those requests has to evolve.
Exactly. Sophia compares the everyday, can you help me, to the workplace equivalent, which is, I would appreciate your assistance with this project.
The shift there is from transactional to relational.
Relational, okay.
Yeah, can you help me, is direct. And in a casual setting, it works because the stakes are low. But in a high-pressure environment, I would appreciate your assistance. Does two very specific psychological things.
What's the first one?
First, appreciate immediately signals gratitude before the task is even accepted.
Oh, that's clever.
And second, assistance elevates the status of the person you are asking. You aren't just asking them to do a chore.
You are calling upon their professional expertise.
Right. It acknowledges the burden you are placing on their time.
So you are formally respecting the hierarchy, even if it's a peer-to-peer relationship.
Exactly.
It reminds me of how they handle joining a discussion. If a meeting is moving quickly and you want to interject, you don't just start talking louder than everyone else.
Please don't do that.
Right. Sophia suggests the phrase, may I add something?
And the reason "may I add something" is so effective is that it asks for consent to alter the flow of the room.
Because steamrolling a conversation builds immediate resentment.
People stop listening to your idea because they are too focused on the fact that you interrupted them.
Yeah, they're just annoyed.
Asking for permission carves out a designated space for your voice. It forces the room to pause and pivot their attention to you voluntarily.
Rather than you having to steal that attention by force.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. We're talking about controlling the flow of a room. Sophia brings up a phrase designed to manage the tempo of information.
Oh, could you speak a little slower?
Yes. She frames this as crucial for non-native speakers, but frankly, this is a universal tool. I look at this phrase and I picture being a passenger in a speeding car.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right. The driver is absolutely flying down the highway, and you are in the passenger seat trying to read a complicated map. Asking them to slow down is like reaching over and tapping the brakes.
It's necessary for navigation.
But let me push back on the idea that this is a professional power move. If I tell a fast-talking, high-powered colleague to slow down, aren't I just exposing a massive vulnerability?
How do you mean?
Aren't I basically admitting I can't keep up with their intellectual pace?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the exact opposite of a vulnerability.
Really? Because it feels terrible in the moment.
Yes, it feels uncomfortable. But consider the alternative, letting them speed along while you miss critical, nuanced details of a project.
Which leads to catastrophic errors down the line.
Exactly. When you use a phrase like, could you speak a little slower?
Yeah.
You are taking proactive ownership of the environment.
You are managing the flow of information to guarantee accurate comprehension.
Because the ultimate currency in a professional setting isn't speed, it is execution.
Execution over speed.
By actively managing the speaker's tempo, you demonstrate that you prioritize successful execution over the temporary discomfort of looking slow.
Wow. So it is a highly competent, assertive maneuver disguised as a polite request.
That's exactly what it is.
I see the logic there. You are choosing short-term vulnerability to guarantee long-term authority over the material. You are managing the environment instead of letting the environment manage you.
But of course, no matter how well you manage the flow of information, Professional life is fundamentally chaotic.
Oh, always. Schedules shift, priorities clash, mistakes are inevitable.
Which is exactly why Sophia and Daniel dedicate a significant portion of their script to the diplomacy of time and the art of the apology.
Because these are the major friction points in any career.
100%.
Let's start with time, because managing other people's schedules is a nightmare.
It's the worst.
Sophia introduces a phrase for setting preferences. I'd rather meet in the afternoon if that works for you.
The brilliance of that phrase lives entirely in the second half.
If that works for you? Because if you just say, I'd rather meet in the afternoon, it's basically a soft demand.
It can come off as dictatorial, but tagging "if that works for you" onto the end instantly hands agency back to your counterpart.
You state your boundary clearly, which helps with planning.
But you maintain the illusion or the reality of collaboration. It preserves their autonomy.
Yeah, it's a collaborative boundary. I really like that. But what about when a schedule completely falls apart?
The dreaded cancellation.
Yeah, when you have to actively disrupt someone's day. Sophia discusses the etiquette of schedule changes using the phrase, could we change the meeting time?
But Daniel adds a caveat to this that I think is the most valuable piece of practical advice in the entire document.
Yes, he notes that it is always thoughtful to suggest another available time immediately.
Right.
I think about this like a game of tennis. If you email someone and just say, I need to cancel our meeting, you have caught the tennis ball and walked off the court.
The game stops.
The momentum just dies. But if you say, could we change the meeting time to Thursday at 3 p.m., you are hitting the ball back over the net.
You keep the rally going.
Exactly.
That tennis analogy perfectly encapsulates the concept of administrative burden.
Administrative burden.
Yeah, when you cancel a meeting without proposing an alternative, you are creating cognitive load for the other person.
Right. You are forcing them to open their calendar, cross-reference their availability, draft an email with options, and wait for your reply.
You created the problem, but you outsourced the labor of fixing it to them.
It's so true.
By immediately offering a new time, you eliminate that administrative burden. You take responsibility for the friction you caused.
It is a massive display of professional respect. You are solving the problem before they even have to process that a problem exists.
Precisely.
And speaking of creating problems, we have to talk about apologies.
Yes, a very delicate topic.
Because there is a very clear spectrum of contrition laid out here. You have the situational, specific apology like, I'm sorry for the trouble caused by the late delivery.
That is highly targeted.
But then Sophia introduces the heavy hitter. The formal repair, please accept my apologies.
The distinction between those two is critical for anyone trying to navigate high-stakes environments.
Because I'm sorry for the late delivery is functional. It addresses a logistical hiccup.
But please accept my apologies operates on a completely different sociolinguistic level.
Yeah.
When you use that phrasing, you are engaging in formal social repair.
Explain that mechanism. Why does the phrasing change the weight of the apology?
Because it places the power entirely in the hands of the offended party.
Oh, interesting.
You aren't just declaring that you are sorry. You are formally offering an apology and asking them to accept it.
It requires their active participation to repair the breach of trust.
Exactly. Daniel notes that this sounds sincere and respectful, and structurally that's because it temporarily subordinates your status to theirs.
You are basically submitting a request for forgiveness.
It signals that you understand the gravity of the error, and you aren't trying to minimize it with a casual, sorry about that.
You are handing them the apology and asking them if it is sufficient. It is a profound leveling of the power dynamic.
It really is.
Now, once you have mastered fixing those mistakes and adjusting those schedules, you are essentially at baseline.
You are surviving the professional landscape.
Surviving, yeah. But the final section of the source material shifts the focus entirely. It moves from defensive communication to offensive communication.
Proactively building bridges.
Making requests, giving compliments, and offering help in a way that actually motivates a team.
This is where we transition from avoiding friction to actively generating social capital.
Let's look at the requests first. Instead of issuing a directive like, send me the file, Daniel highlights, could you email me the document before tomorrow morning?
Or, for softening a broader ask, would you mind helping me with this?
Sophia rightly points out that this is respectful, but to me, the truly fascinating part of this bridge-building section is their focus on compliments.
Compliments are arguably the most underutilized tool in corporate environments.
Completely underutilized. Sophia highlights phrases like, you did an excellent job, to recognize specific hard work.
And then a broader one, I really like your ideas.
Daniel points out that positive comments help motivate people and build confidence. But when I read this, I see compliments acting as a literal form of social currency.
Oh, absolutely.
It is a currency that costs you, the speaker, absolutely nothing to mint. You just have to synthesize the words.
But it pays massive dividends in team loyalty and motivation.
You are making people feel fundamentally valued, and it costs you $0. Why do we hoard this currency?
We often hoard it because we mistakenly believe that praising someone else diminishes our own status.
Oh, like a zero-sum game.
Exactly, which is a fallacy of zero-sum thinking. When you look at a phrase like, I really like your ideas, you have to understand the specific psychological vulnerability of the workplace.
People are insecure.
Most professionals are highly insecure about their intellectual contributions. They worry their ideas are derivative or foolish.
So when you say, I really like your ideas, you are providing direct intellectual validation.
You are telling them that their cognitive output is valuable to the group. That kind of validation bonds a team together tighter than almost any financial incentive.
It creates psychological safety.
Yeah.
And that concept of safety ties directly into the final point they make about offering help. We all know the standard way to offer assistance.
Right. Daniel gives the classic example. You see a classmate or a colleague who looks confused, and you ask, can I help you with something?
It is direct, it is well-intentioned, but then Sophia introduces a completely different approach. Feel free to ask if you need help.
This raises an important question. Why does that subtle shift in phrasing matter so much?
It feels a lot less aggressive.
If we look at the mechanics of the first option, can I help you? You are forcing a real-time interaction.
You are cornering that person into making a split-second decision.
They have to either swallow their pride, admit they are struggling, and accept your help right then and there.
Or they have to reflexively put up their defenses and say, no, I've got it, even if they don't.
You are putting them on the spot. You are forcing a status shift in real time.
But feel free to ask if you need help is a masterclass in autonomy preservation.
It removes all immediate pressure.
You are acknowledging that they might be struggling, but you are not forcing them to confess to it in that moment.
You are quietly weaving a safety net and letting them know it is there.
It allows them to process the problem, attempt to solve it themselves, and then, if they still need assistance, approach you on their own terms.
Retaining their dignity. It is an incredibly empathetic way to use language.
It is an open-ended invitation. The door is unlocked. Walk through it whenever you are ready. That is brilliant.
It really is elegant.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at the entirety of this sociolinguistic toolkit Sophia and Daniel have outlined,
What's the big picture?
the core takeaway for you listening is that true communication mastery has very little to do with the size of your mental dictionary.
Right.
Real fluency is the ability to diagnose the power dynamics, the cognitive load, and the emotional state of a room.
And then match the precise level of politeness, formality, and directness to that specific environment.
It is about knowing that, isn't just polite, it's a spatial boundary.
Yes.
It's understanding that offering a new meeting time reduces administrative burden.
Absolutely.
And it's recognizing that telling a peer, I really like your ideas,
Yeah.
is an investment of social currency that pays off in team cohesion.
It requires extreme situational awareness.
It does.
You have all these linguistic tools available, but it is your ability to read the unspoken needs of your counterpart that dictates which tool you pull from the belt.
And as Sophia rightly notes in the conclusion of their script, you cannot intellectualize this process entirely. You have to put it into practice.
You can't just read the map, you have to drive the car.
Exactly. Daniel's final advice is to actively seek out opportunities to deploy these expressions.
The more you use them in the messy, unpredictable reality of human interaction, the more you will intuitively grasp the psychological levers they pull.
So I would challenge you to experiment with this today. Find an opportunity to remove someone's administrative burden.
Or deliberately use, would you mind helping me with this?
Yeah.
To elevate a colleague's status.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Okay, lay it on me.
We have spent this entire conversation dissecting these specific phrases as the ultimate rules for diplomatic, effective engagement.
We have treated the syntax as the solution.
Right. But what happens when the literal meaning of these carefully chosen words is completely contradicted by the physical reality of the speaker's voice?
Oh, tone of voice.
Think about the heavy-hitting formal repair we discussed earlier. Please accept my apology.
Yeah, the profound leveling of the power dynamic.
Ponder how that perfectly polite, structurally subordinate phrase completely weaponizes if it is delivered with a deeply sarcastic, impatient, or passive-aggressive tone.
It immediately transforms from an olive branch into an insult.
It just proves that no matter how perfectly you engineer the script, the invisible sociolinguistics of how we say something will always hold the ultimate power over what we say.